Joining us now from Washington is Congressman Adam Schiff, Democrat from the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena area. He serves as the the chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Congressman, thanks for taking the time.
It's great to be with you.
So I wanted to ask you about the British ambassador to the United States who recently resigned after some of his private cables to his government, which were disparaging of the White House and the president, were leaked.
Well, we're interested because this is our closest ally, the British, and the intelligence relationship we have with British intelligence is among the strongest of what we call our Five Eyes partners around the world. So anything that could potentially disrupt that relationship or strain that relationship is of deep concern. I don't have any reason to believe that the leaks occurred on the American side of things. I presume that these cables in Britain were released by those in Britain that had an interest in making life difficult for Theresa May. But of course, the result was tragic, and that is a very capable ambassador who I've known and worked with had to resign. And the fact that he couldn't be candid and keep his job is kind of a sorry state of affairs. If every diplomat working here in the Capitol these days were subject to being fired because they had criticisms of our president, there'd be few left in the international diplomatic corps. That's just the kind of relationship, unfortunately, the president has with many of our strongest allies.
Congressman, when it comes to the former special counsel, that is Robert Mueller, testifying before your committee, what is it that you want to hear from him? First of all, we expect he will testify at some point. And what is it that you want to hear from him that's independent of what the report said?
Well, actually, what I expect is most of what he's going to testify is facts that are relayed in the report, but they're facts that most American people don't know. It's, I think, very difficult for a lot of people to read that 400- or 500-page report, but what he will bring out in his testimony is the fact that the Russians intervene in a systemic way, and they did it to help one of the two candidates win, and that was Donald Trump. And the Trump campaign was aware of what the Russians were doing. They eagerly accepted that help. They at times asked for that help. They said they would love to get that help. They made full use of that help, and then they lied about it and tried to conceal it. Those are very basic facts, but most of the public hasn't had a chance to read the report. They may be unfamiliar with a lot of those facts. And it'll be important for the public to hear that directly from the man who did the investigation. Look, the president lies and dissembles about this all the time. His attorney general misrepresented the special counsel's work. It is vitally important that the public hear from the person who actually did the investigation, and that will have tremendous value, even if his testimony is largely within the confines of his report.
And finally, I have to ask you, you're a colleague of the House Speaker, you're an ally of Nancy Pelosi, you're a friend of hers, a fellow Californian. She was described most recently by Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York as being someone who has been outright disrespectful for the explicit singling out of newly elected women of color for criticism. I'm wondering, what has been the response of your caucus to this dust-up between the House Speaker and some of the new, younger, progressive members of the caucus?
You know, I think the general reaction is we need to stop fighting amongst ourselves. There is so little difference within our caucus as compared to the differences we have with the Trump administration. We ought to be all working together on the same page to combat the policies of this administration when they're wrong-headed, as they so often are. So I think the general feeling is this is not constructive to have this interfamily feud. If people have a concern about other members of our caucus, they should raise those concerns, but they should do so privately. They should do so respectfully. It makes no sense for us to be fighting among ourselves.
Right, but one could say that it's more than a spat if the chief of staff for Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez accuses centrist and blue dog Democrats of being segregationists, as he did in a tweet, that calling them the new Southern Democrats. They certainly seem hell-bent to do black and brown people today what the old Southern Democrats did in the 40s. Did you consider that offensive?
Well, look, I talked with members of those caucuses who are black and brown themselves and are deeply offended by that kind of language. And I don't think it's appropriate for any of our members to be attacking each other in that way and using such incendiary terms and language. So I think it's singularly unhelpful all around. And I think we need to get back to focusing on the issues, not focusing on each other. And I think we need to, again, coalesce around our opposition to the deeply destructive policies of the administration, not attacking each other over good faith differences between people, and also the fact that we are a diverse caucus and we represent diverse constituencies around the country. If we were not a diverse caucus, we'd be in the minority. Believe me, I'm delighted to have these problems when the alternative is to be a more pure party in the minority. I don't think that serves our policy priorities one bit.
The Honorable Adam Schiff, the chairman of the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence for the House of Representatives. Congressman, thanks for taking the time.
You bet. Thank you.
This week is the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of one of the greatest accomplishments of mankind, the landing of a man on the moon, the Apollo 11 anniversary. We take a look through the eyes of the director of the Griffith Observatory. What did the observatory, how did they help with the Apollo 11 moon landing? That when we return.